Hey guys, how's it going? So this is going to be a fun video. I've been looking forward to making it for quite a while. The top 5 AKs you've never heard of. Now I know some of you have probably heard of a few of these, maybe all of them, but certainly you've never seen them all in the same video. So we're going to go through. I'm only going to spend a few minutes on each one. I'm going to provide bonus footage over on Locals, so check the link in the pinned comment. And if there's any requests for me to do a longer review on any of these, make sure you let me know in the comments. I thought of even doing this with the SKS, the Mosin, the Tokarev, other options like that, or even more AKs. So again, let me know down there in the comments. And I appreciate all of you guys who help support and sponsor these videos. You guys are my sponsors. So Patreon, channel members, supporters over on Locals, thank you so much. And if any of you would like to support, there's links down in the description. So the first one I'm going to show you is the Romanian PAR-1, P-A-R-1, and PAR stands for Pump Action Rifle. You see, this is a pump action AK, which is something you just don't see very often, especially with this one being in 100% original condition. And by the way, every gun in this video is going to be in original condition, completely unmodified. So I think these are all going to be pretty fun to go over here. So as we can see right here on the bolt carrier, where there would normally be a charging handle, there is none, because in fact the action up here on this unique forend is ran by pump action, similar to a lot of shotguns that you guys are probably familiar with. Now this was brought in sometime after the '89 Bush ban, somewhere up until probably the early 90s. I don't know the exact year. And they did bring these in multiple calibers, and they're just not very common. So let's go through this real quick here. So made in Romania at the Cougar factory, actually the same one that the Wassers that many of you are familiar with are made at. So made in Romania. It does have a chrome lined barrel. We can see this little bell-shaped device is tack welded on, okay. Wood forend with the appropriate slot for this pump action. It has like a gas tube, which is actually basically just there for looks, because obviously this is driven by you actually pumping it. Same thing with this combination, would be gas block. In this case, not really running any gas through it, obviously. Front sight combo. Now here's something I would notice right away. Normally the hooded front sights are Chinese. That's kind of their signature. But in this case, this Romanian does have a hooded front sight. Now normally what we consider the rear sight base is there because it's needed for populating the devices, the barrel and whatnot. But you can see that there's nothing there. And that actually it just has a small little rear blade sight that is affixed to this little fixture on top of the dust cover there, the top cover. It does have XY markings. This is a stamped receiver, and it does have the side rail, so that's pretty cool. It does have the dimpled magwell, and the cool thing about this is this is the original 5-round magazine that came with this rifle. It does have a normal double stack magwell and bullet guide and all that kind of stuff ready to go. So it's not like the Segas where you had to go through a bunch of stuff for them to take standard capacity magazines. Here's your safety selector. We have safe, fire. Everything on this is weird. It's kind of like part AKM. I mean, the way a lot of it works, but yet obviously pretty darn unique. You can see the standard AKM style mag latch right there. It has a Dragunov Sporter thumb hole style stock with a steel butt plate, sling mount back here, as well as a stud swivel all the way up in front of the, we'll just call it the gas block, even though it's not actually putting any gas back into the firearm. One more thing, I don't know if you guys can notice this, it does actually have on the carrier, see if you guys can see in there a little bit, it does actually have kind of like a gas piston in there that does reciprocate back and forth, although again, this is not a gas operated, it's all operated here with the pump. This does feature a square back receiver, okay, But again, this is the original Sporter stock. It has a little bit of bakelite there on the bottom. So for all you bakelite fans, we can chime in with that right there. The Par 1, made in Cougar. Not a lot about these on the internet. I know they didn't bring many in at all. In fact, all my years of enjoying and collecting AKs, this is the only one I personally ran across. So I grabbed this up years ago and thought I would share it with you guys here today. The next one is the Hungarian AK-63. Now I'm going to get this out of the way right off the bat. Sometimes people call these AMD 63s. And I get why, because it kind of looks like an AMD 65 at first glance, and certainly some similarities, but that is absolutely not what this is. This is a AKM 63, which was Hungary's first attempt at the AKM. And this has an original 16-inch barrel, so this was made off an original, all matching kit, original cold hammer forged, chrome line, Hungarian barrel. It does feature a interesting front end, right? We have a stamped sheet metal, lower handguard, if you will, with a grip affixed. Again, this is unmodified. This is literally exactly the way this rifle was made, as well as the rear grip. Now you'll notice the front and rear are basically the same grips, just opposing each other. This one's on backwards, if you will. I have a 20 round original Hungarian tanker mag in it. This has a longer gas system, here's the gas tube, than the AMD 65. We see an unhooded front sight post, muzzle nut, which is pretty standard with these. I'll let you guys take a peek. You can see that chrome line bore if the light's hitting it just right. Rear sight leaf out to 1,000 meters with the A there, which is what Hungary used. Now, they only brought in, from my understanding, about 200 AKM63 original barrel kits, which would make it quite rare. Well, here's what makes this one a little bit more rare than that. This is actually an original blue polymer stock and grips here. And there's an interesting story behind this, and I can get into it in a future video, or check my channel because I did a long video review on this a couple years ago. It's actually made of a food grade plastic, and there's reasons why. It had to do with politics and things like that. But food grade blue polymer furniture, Hungarian AKM 63, of course chambered in 7.62 by 39. And if I forgot to mention, on that Romanian Par rifle, also 7.62 by 39. In fact, that's what all of the rifles in this video are going to be. So we can take a look at the trunnion there. Nice and simple. That's how Hungary marked them. They didn't have really a logo or anything on it, just a number and letter, serial number there. Selector, just like a standard AKM. Up top here for safe. Down here for fire. They would use the infinity symbol for the select fire there. And then all the way down on the bottom would be single fire. Now, of course, this is just for cosmetics. This is a semi-automatic rifle. Very lightweight, actually. You would just want to watch yourself because this gas tube's exposed and it gets very hot. And actually, after lots of sustained high rates of fire, these lower handguards get pretty hot too. So although I would generally like to shoot more like this, this is pretty much the grip that the Hungarians trained with. I was able to access some of their old training manuals, and it's pretty much the manual of arms right here. Give you guys a quick look at this up close, and we will move on to the next one. Blue furniture, AKM 63 from Hungary. Alright, so I thought I would bring in an underfolder to kind of switch stuff up, but I'm actually going to do better than that. So this is a double folder. This is a Chinese, and it's called a double folder because we can see that it has a underfolding stock, which is pretty cool, and it also has an underfolding spike bayonet. So this is a spiker underfolding stock, otherwise known as a double folder. For purposes of this video, I'm just going to put this 5-round magazine in it. It accepts standard double stack, but YouTube likes these right now, these nice little 5-round magazines. So this one's actually kind of interesting. Made in China. This is called the AK-47s-1, and this actually came to the country pretty early, before we started seeing a lot of the Polytech and the Norenko. In fact, this is what they call a movie gun. Being imported by RAI, Woodland Hills, California. I'll see if I can get it to zoom in on that stamp over there for you. It's really shiny. That's what I love about these Chinese AKs. Real shiny, pretty bluing. But we'll see RAI, Woodland Hills, California. And upon doing research, they were a movie prop house, and they brought these in basically for movie sets. So there's pretty famous movies like Rambo that feature the AK, and that's exactly what these guys were in business for. So this is a double folder movie gun. Now, of course, being a Chinese, this features the heavier stamped sheet metal receiver and a lot of carryover from the milled AK-47 type, the heavier dust cover here. The vented gas tube rather than the gas block being vented. The famous Chinese hooded front sight. This features a slant brake, which is real common. You usually see the Chinese Type 56 with a slant brake or a muzzle nut. A spike bayonet that's not the same dimensions, and there's a totally different mount here, but similar to what a lot of you probably have on your SKS. It features the famous Chinese so-called chew wood. I know that's not the name of it, but that's what people call it, with the provision there, obviously, for the spiker to fold down underneath. A nice wood grip. I like the thin grips on these. The Chinese had checkered styles, and I like those too, but there's just something nice about this thin grip. Now, this is what they call a pre-ban, meaning pre-1989 ban. So this was before they brought in that whole Section 922R, where you could have no more than 10 foreign parts on these type rifles. So this being made in around 1987 by the markings here, with serial number 279, we can see 87-000-279. Not many of these were made, not many of these were brought in. This contains all Chinese parts, 100%, and it's completely grandfathered in as such. We'll see on the rear sight, graduated out to 800 meters with the letter D, which would indicate China. That was the letter code that they normally used. But yeah, I don't know if I've shared this on this channel before, but I wanted to because it's kind of a unique little gun. It's like I said, it's got this nice spiker up front here. I'm just kind of taking a look at all the machining, the bluing. Everything's very nice. So it's not often that you see it with the folding bayonet and the underfolding stock, and with this kind of unique importer, this being considered to be what's called a movie gun. Now, do I know if this particular one was any movies or not? No, but it probably was. Was it something that we would have seen on TV or from a famous actor? I actually don't know, and I don't think there's any way we ever will know, but pretty much if it came in by RAI, that's what it was being brought in for, is the movie industry. Oh yeah, I like an underfolder. What about you guys? It looks cool in any of the 3 different configurations. Here's another one from China that you don't see every day, and this is the Norenko Hunter. And it was actually brought into the United States exactly for that purpose. This was brought in to be a hunting rifle. This one's marked Norenko. It features a really pretty dark blonde stock, a large broad fore end with nice checkering here, as well as on the grip portion of the buttstock. It features a 20-inch barrel, and this is chrome lined and hammer forged. It has the classic Chinese hooded front sight. This is semi-automatic. It came into the country and still has a Chinese flatback 5-round magazine. Now, when you look at this, you're going to notice a few things. It kind of doesn't look like an AK, even though it actually is. This was put into a sporter or hunting type configuration. It features a rather long stock, much longer, much longer length of pull than you would expect on a Warsaw packed length stock. So if you're used to more of American-sized hunting rifles, this actually might fit the bill. It has a very comfortable, soft rubber butt pad. It features a heavy stamp top cover. You can see it has a normal AK bolt carrier. The selector marked for safe and fire. Safe up here. Fire down here. The trigger has a very long sweep to it, and it looks kind of funky, but the pull is actually just crisp. Like, I'm going to run this trigger again, guys. There's literally like no take up, and it just breaks very cleanly. See that hinging mechanism? You'd be surprised. This trigger is really nice. Like most Chinese guns, it has a very beautiful blued finish, as you can see here on all of the metal parts. This one being in excellent condition. Typical Chinese style, it has a vented gas tube rather than the gas block. There's a provision for a sling here, as well as underneath the buttstock. Now this is a milled receiver rifle, and if you look at it, Norenko actually copied off of the profile and format of the Finnish Valmet, which is also the same basic style as the Galil. So I thought some of you guys might think that that's actually pretty interesting. 7.62 by 39. We'll come over to this side. These came pre-drilled and tapped with 3 holes for a scope mount. However, they actually never imported the scope mounts with them. Although later on, B West would bring them in that were compatible, but they were aftermarket. So as far as I know, none of these shipped with scope mounts, and there aren't any original genuine Norenko here. Now we can see the Norenko marking right there, made in China. This is all serial number matching, serial numbered cover, receiver, bolt carrier group. Now here's another little interesting fact. Some of you AK guys are going to know what I'm talking about here. We're going to see that this was made in factory 386, the circle right there with the marking. Now 386, if you're familiar with the famous Polytech Legend and other Polytech rifles, was normally a factory code that Polytech brought in. But this is a factory 386 built gun, marked Norenko, and brought in as such. So I always thought that was kind of interesting, because I normally associate 386 factory with Polytech. You can see it has a small little rear sight base with just a little flip up. So you've got 2 settings right there. Little narrow rear blade with that hooded front sight. And I'm trying to see if these are marked. I don't actually see any markings on this front sight, but it's a quick selection. You've got basically 2 options, presumably close range here, and then when we flip up, I can see that the sight just got much taller for longer range with this 20-inch barrel. I don't know, this might be some of your favorites. It might look a little lame, but it's certainly a unique firearm and a great little shooter. This trigger is just literally awesome, with a very short, crisp reset, and then you just basically touch it. Just think about touching it, and it goes off. So internally, it's an AK. Kind of looks like a Valmet. Kind of looks like a Galil. Kind of looks like your classic hunting rifle, and in fact, it is basically all 3. Alright, I'm going to go grab an RPK to switch stuff up a little bit. So here we have a Yugo RPK chambered in 7.62 by 39. And some of you may be familiar with Yugo M72 B1, and I have one of those too, and they're really cool, but this one's just a little bit different, because this is actually the underfolding paratrooper version called the M72 AB1. And there have been some people that have made clones of these out of a regular M72, but I assure you, this is actually a real deal M72 AB1. So let's take a look at this thing. Heavy duty. Everything about this is heavy. Heavy, thick, stamped sheet metal receiver. Oversized, bulged front trunnion that we can see here. heavy profile barrel with built-in cooling fins that were designed to help keep this barrel from overheating during high rates of sustained fire. It features an open ear front sight there with a provision for a flip up tritium. I don't know if you guys can see that right there. Front dot sight, which is a pretty cool feature on some of these Yugos. We're going to notice the same thing. We have a regular Yugo RPK style rear sight that is adjustable for not only elevation here, but also it has a windage knob. And the same thing, it has a real small little blade in the back. And it's going to be impossible for my camera to zoom in, but little hash marks where you can actually adjust the right to left windage back here instead of just pressing the little drum back and forth like you normally would on an AK. Let's take a look at a few of the markings on this, because this is what kind of makes this unique. But this features a Bosnian 2-rib magazine, which you don't see every day. For the purposes of this video, this is a 25-round magazine that I procured especially here for YouTube. More bonus stuff on this over on Locals, by the way. Check the pinned comment. This thing's a beast, guys. I'm trying to get it on here. So we can see the rear sight base is stamped with the original factory markings, Zastava Kragujevac, Yugoslavia. I know I mispronounced that, but this is the famous Zastava factory that's been making firearms for years and still does today. A lot of you guys may be familiar with the Zastava USA imports. Look at this big bulge trunnion. Wood handguards. And that's about the only wood that's on this rifle. It features the traditional Yugo type grip. So they made very few of these. I don't know how many of these kits were ever brought into the United States, but you don't see a true AB1 very often. And I suppose I should zoom in on the trunnion because some of you guys might like to see those markings. So we can see M72, AB1. The bluing on this is making the camera have a hard time picking it up, but I'll try to roll in a still picture for you guys to take a look at that marking just a little bit better. Dated 1984, serial number 11,834, and the few others that I've seen documented photographs of these, they do fit right in that year range, right within that serial number block, so I don't think a lot of these were brought into the country. This thing's getting heavy just holding it here. It features a rear sling attachment here. And we can come up to the side of the gas block for our front sling cleaning rod. Now here's one more feature with this. Not only did it underfold to get it compact in size, but it actually has a quick release bipod. So I'm going to deploy the bipod here. Check the Locals video out where I'm actually going to go through and show you guys how to take this off. I don't want this video to run too long, and plus we're here on YouTube. So we can see a nice 2-legged bipod. This features a muzzle nut, which was rather common on the Yugo RPKs. And there's a little push button right here where you could just push. Now we're not going to be able to do it right now because the cleaning rod's in place, but if we get that cleaning rod out of the way, we can literally just push a button. Let me get that back there. It's wanting to fall out on me a bit. And get this whole thing to drop. So you guys can probably see that right there moving just a little bit. And I could literally just drop this bipod right off, stow it in the pack, and get this thing as small and lightweight as possible. So a Yugo underfolding RPK M72 AB1. I'll let you guys take a quick look at this before we get on out of here. I really like these Yugos. You know, they made a lot of patterns of many different firearms, and they always did it just a little bit different than the Com Block, didn't they? With their pistols, their rifles, and that's what makes stuff from that country. Former Yugoslavia. Was Yugoslavia when this was built. It just makes it fun to collect and enjoy firearms from those different countries. So more bonus footage of these on Locals, and let me know, like how I started off the video, 5 more AKs that you don't see every day. SKS, Mosin, Mauser, Tokarev, just to name a few. I'm really into milsurps, guys, so just let me know down in the comments, and I hope all of you guys enjoyed the video. Last round bolt hold open on this Yugo type 2-rib mag. And look, these are the so-called Bosnian 2-rib. I know most people think they weren't actually made there, but that's kind of what they're known as. So I waited till the end. We'll see who finished watching the video to say, but the Bosnian 2-rib wasn't really made in Bosnia. I know. It probably wasn't, but that's kind of what these have been called over the years, and it's a pretty interesting mag that you don't see too often. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and have a good one.